is discussion and concluding remarks. So I've heard the moderator is Oliver, so I pass.
Thank you. So I will try to be as brief as possible because, as I said, we're a bit over time. So if you don't mind, I would like to give a few remarks on the presentations and perhaps some ideas where we can go in the future and perhaps where we can share resources. I don't know. So it's just in chronological order. I wrote down my ideas here and it's not sorted systematically. So regarding Kyoko's presentation, I really appreciate it. And I also like to see that someone else is working with Bloomfield because it's really an interesting resource and a great resource. And I think one other interesting question would also be what do these citations, for instance, of Rig Veda texts in the Maitrayani Samhita tell us about the Rig Veda? So you ask, what do they tell us about the Maitrayani Samhita? But we could also go the other way around and see which part of the Rig Veda were cited in which other text, and does this tell us something about the history of the Vedic literature? I don't know. So I also would like to say I feel, and I'm happy to see that this comes out now, I feel that we definitely need quantitative methods and also statistical tests of significance to see if our hypotheses are somehow only occur by chance or if they are somehow systematic. And this is one point I would like to perhaps, it's one idea that one could integrate in these visualization tools presented by Professor Natsukawa, that perhaps while creating such a network, one could run some kind of statistical significance test in the background and highlight edges that are statistically more probable than others. I don't know how it works, but it may be useful. And in general, I find these visualization tools you presented extremely interesting and very useful for our work. And perhaps one could also think about, you presented once this TSNE, dimensionality reduction, and perhaps we could think about how we can perhaps tune such functions to our special needs, for instance, by integrating extra labels into these input vectors. So basically we have n-dimensional input vectors and produce 2 dimensions out of it. And perhaps we could use additional categorical attributes for better tuning and better visualizing these data. I don't know. And regarding Yuki's presentation, I would ask, or perhaps have the idea that one could perhaps choose also contextualized embeddings for these similarity studies, just as Sebastian has shown. So something like Roberta or Bert or whatever you have here. And one could also think about this, but this is more into machine learning, if perhaps we have some additional tasks like predicting the text or predicting the content of a chapter that could improve your similarity studies. So these tasks should not be related to what you want to find out at the end, but they should somehow push the vectors in the right direction to get better representations. I don't know, you could think about it. And regarding the presentation by Professor Miyagawa, I definitely agree with you that we need some kind of gold standards, or I think this is really important for us. For instance, like you presented this work by Kuhn, I never heard the name before, but this seems to be important. So it would be great if we also have some kind of gold standard for our task, for the Vedic corpus, and have something like this so we can really evaluate our data on it. And I think it also has made clear that how important it is to have some kind of good pipeline for the processing process. So not just every group does it on their own, everyone builds their own Python script also, but rather we have some kind of good accepted pipeline in which we can feed our data and make our lives easier. So I think this may be important. And also to conclude, I think this presentation has shown that text reuse is really a problem, and also a problem for the Vedic texts, as I think this is even beyond Bloomfield's Vedic concordance, for instance, if you have a look at these Kamya Ishtis, where you want to achieve some aim and you sacrifice a cow and a goat and whatever, all these texts are literally, almost literally repeated in the Vedic texts. And we should find methods how to filter out or somehow how to deal with these data in our chronological studies. So I think this may be important for us too in the future to better handle text reuse. So these are my notes and remarks, and thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. So I really appreciate the good suggestion, and it's very helpful to get an feedback from the domain experts. Thank you.